Welcome to my August garden tour. I'm going to be sharing with you some things that are going on in my garden this month and some of the things that I'm going to be doing. We are now in the dog days of summer, and this is when my garden is in full production. I've given it plenty of fertilizer and water to get it through to this point, and we've got so many things to harvest. We've got a bunch of onions that we've got to get harvested, and we've got a bunch of the white sweet Spanish, and so I'm going to get these all pulled up and then put them out on trays so that they can cure. I know that they're ready because the shoulders peek up out of the soil and their tops flop over. If you can't get to them quick enough, then you can kind of mound some dirt over them, and that prolongs the harvest time just a little bit longer. For the last 2 months that we've done garden tours, we've kind of featured our artichoke plant here. We went from food to flower and now seed, and they've really transitioned. So the plant itself used to be really pretty, and you can see it just seems to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So now it's time to actually start harvesting the seed off of these. If we leave them to ripen any more than this, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll open up even more, and then the wind takes the little seeds away. And actually they're not that little, and we'll just cut into this. And they're very spiny, but there's all these little seeds in here. And they actually just kind of float away in the wind. But look at that. That's your little seeds right there. And so you can see where they can just be really light and airy, and they'll just blow away in the wind. So we'll capture these because this is such a great artichoke plant. This is just an excellent thing to be harvesting seed off of. And we can take these, cure them for just a few weeks, and we can actually start new plants from this right away. So I love the artichokes. They're super simple to have in the garden to get seed off of. Another thing that I really like that we've got is the okra that we've got. I plant okra all over in the garden. I've got little patches everywhere. I've got it in my garden as well. In the flower beds, because I love the flower on it because it's really pretty. It's related to the hibiscus family, or it's in the hibiscus family. And so if you imagine that hibiscus flower, this has the same kind of flower, and it's really pretty. So I'm just noticing that we're just starting to get a few little buds here. So probably within a week, maybe 2 weeks, we'll be harvesting the fruit off of this. And one thing about it is you've got to harvest it often, because really you're doing it daily because it ripens so quickly, and it gets too woody if you wait too long. Over here, this is kind of my woes of the garden this year. We've been super, super dry up until just last night. We finally got some rain. We haven't had rain in several months. It was back in February, our last rain, and here we are in August. And it wasn't even substantial at that point. But we ended up with getting some spider mites on some of our tomatoes. And as you can see right here, the leaves are kind of like dappled. And before the rain, there was some webbing on here and little black dots. Now, I did spray this off a few times throughout the last couple of weeks to help control the spider mites because they don't like moisture. And that seems like it's helped a lot because all of our new growth looks really good. But we've had it kind of sporadically throughout the garden. But we also tried for the first time this year, which I'm really excited about, and these are probably one of our most prolific tomatoes. They are small, but this is our black strawberry. They're kind of cool. They get quite dark in color when they hit the sun. But this guy here, you can see his shoulders aren't as dark like these guys are. So they get these shoulders that are exposed to the sun, and so they get more of that black color on them, which is more like a purple color. But they're pretty cool. That was kind of a neat new thing that we did this year. We also did some lemon spice jalapenos. I love these. I love the color of them. They're really vibrant. They're still hot, and they're super good. So this was another fun new thing that we did in the garden this year. Okay, so we have free food all over in the garden, you could say. So we've talked about our leeks going to seed, and just a week ago, in fact, it wasn't even a week ago, I think it was 5 days ago, I took some of these leeks off the seeds, I just come in here and I literally just cut those off and I threw those in a pot. And they're already coming up. So this is basically like free food. So collecting your own seed is just a great thing to do. It helps you be self-sustainable. You'll notice throughout the garden I've got a lot of this white floating row cover. This helps me protect peppers and tomatoes and things that sun scald really easy. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, those are all ones that always seem to, if they don't have enough foliage on them, that they get sunburnt. And so by just putting just a simple little layer of cloth like this over, it keeps them from getting that sun scald on that west or south facing side where the sun is the hottest. It just kind of burns and scalds that one side of the fruit, and then it kind of turns white, and then it sinks in, and it really ruins the fruit. It's still edible. Sometimes peppers get holes in it, and then the bugs get into it. So we try to really prevent that, and you know, we don't want to be eating any peppers that are like that. But they're doing really good in here. We've got some really awesome yellow monsters in here. They got a really nice size, and you can see that I do a lot of companion planting all throughout the garden. If there's a spot, I put something in it. But right here was some Malabar spinach, and so I have to kind of make sure that it stays out in the row so that it doesn't go into the peppers and strangle them, because it is just a vining plant. And we'll just harvest these leaves, and they're just a nice summertime spinach that doesn't grow. Spinach doesn't grow here in the heat, but we can do this and it grows great here in the summertime. So we're just about a month and a half out from harvesting our sweet potatoes. We've got sweet potatoes all over in the gardens as well. They're super easy. They're totally bug-free in our area, which is really a bonus because we have such a high pest population here, and so it's really nice. And if we do end up with something, it's never too detrimental to the plant. But we'll know when they're ready. We'll get in here, and right where we planted them, you'll start to see them just earth up a little bit. And we also don't want to let these freeze. We harvest them before they freeze. So usually at the end of September, these are ready to harvest. And as you can see on our little windmill here, this is some of that Malabar spinach that just seeded itself. There's some more of our free food if we let the volunteers take over. And it's just crawling up this, and so we can just easily pick it like that. So it's a little bit more conducive than what we had back there. Okay, right here I have this lone little cucumber plant. There's actually a couple of them in here. These were kind of rescues from our nursery. They were the last ones that we had on the shelf, and so I went ahead and grabbed them and stuck them in the ground. This was only 2.5 weeks ago, and they look really good. We just fed them, gave them a good amount of water, and I just noticed that we actually have our first muncher cucumber. I'm excited about that because it's doing so well. And right here is our cinnamon basil that I planted just as a companion plant. And the other thing is there was a hole. And anytime there's a hole, you know, or an empty spot in the garden, I like to put something in the garden in those spots. Because if I'm going to grow something, I don't want it to be weeds. And so it just makes sense to pop something in these empty spots. So I have a lot of little broke up spots in the garden, and this is called polyculture, where you don't plant in large groupings or big rows. Polyculture confuses insects, and then you have less of a pest problem because they may come into one section, but they usually don't move on to the next section because it's somewhere else. And so this just breaks it up, and I don't usually have too big of a pest problem. It's like this tomato plant right here. We don't have any spider mites on that, which is great because of polyculture. We can thank that. So it's fun to put little things in little empty spots that we've got. And then right underneath this tomato plant, you can see that we've got some spilanthes growing there. It's just kind of a cool little plant to have. I just love this diversity of the things that we got going on in the garden. Okay, now I've got some blank spots right here. So this is going to be the home to some things like some arugula on this side that's a little bit shorter and some mustard greens on the other side. This is the perfect time This is the 1st of August. This is the perfect time for our Zone 8 to start planting things like that. I will have to use some of that floating row cover to put over the top just to help keep the moisture in. But I've got a few little weeds that I've got to get out of here. I've got some of this spurge, which is not really an awful weed other than it's prolific and it produces like crazy. And as you can see right here, this is what we call more free food. And here's some lettuces. We've been letting it go to seed because this was a spectacular lettuce variety. And so we'll harvest this. It's going to be a little bit harder because we've got the rain on it. So I think what I'll do later is just come in here and chop this off, hang it upside down, put a bag over it to make sure that I catch any seeds that might fall off. So there's some more free food, and we'll be able to plant this the first week in September, actually. Okay, so I thought that I would use a little bit of space for some wheat. And as you can see, our old kitty cat is going to harvest this crop before it does anything. Oh well, that's all right, Mabes. So anyways, I've got a little tiny bit of potatoes left over that I haven't harvested. This little area back here was all potatoes, and we got 1.5 bushels out of this little tiny section. So this is again another one of those polycultures that I've done. But we've just got just a few little plants here that we've got to get harvested. I don't know what's left in here, but I've seen a few little things that when I was kind of digging around, I've got a little bit, and they're nice potatoes in here. So we just kind of did a mix of potatoes in this little area. There's not a lot left in here, so I don't know what we're going to end up with. A bunch of little baby potatoes. Those will be good, though. Some nice little potatoes that are still left in here. Good little dinner for the next couple of nights. Oh, I feel something good under here. Look at that. So I'll come in here real carefully with a digging fork. Look at that guy. He looks like a little heart. So I don't want to hurt these too much by digging around, but I'll continue to pull the rest of these plants out and see what we've got. We might have something good in here. Ah, look at that. Yeah. We've already harvested quite a bit off of all of this. But, let's see. There are a few little guys in here, so we'll continue to root through this soil a little bit later. Okay, as we speak, it's starting to sprinkle. I love this. Anyways, this is our red velvet okra, just another small patch. As you can see, the stems are red on it. Our other okra is a green okra, and it has green stems. So that will be a good indication of what color your pods are going to be, which is kind of cool. They're almost identical to this, so they hide really good. So sometimes they'll fool you and you don't think you got any, and you look in here and you'll just have these massively large okra. So make sure you just kind of get in here and peek around in your bushes. These are fabulous for our area because we are so arid and we're in the desert and we're so hot that okra loves that kind of a climate. So we love putting these all over in the garden. These do excellent here. Okay, some of our other things that we've got. Some people will look at these and almost think that they look sickly. But this is a variegated, which is called a candy cane chocolate pepper. And they start to develop some color. I've got one here just starting to develop some chocolate color on it. So they're very stripy. There's a couple of them in here I'll pick. Oh, this one's a good one. And look at how fun that is. It's got that neat variegation to it. And these do really good in our store. And just a little tiny little leftover guy that I had in the nursery. So what I need to do with this guy, because he is a little bit behind, is I need to make sure that in August that I'm continuing to fertilize. And I'll probably put some dry fertilizer around this. And then I'll continue to mulch plants too, just to help keep that moisture in. And then also help keep the weeds down as well. Okay, in this crazy unruly row, I've got to do something about it because it just kind of drives me crazy when you can't walk through a row without stuff grabbing at you. And so the beans are starting to flop over, and these aren't pole beans, these are bush beans. But there's just a simple little method that you can do to keep your beans in your row. Just tuck them in. And I just take these guys and I'll put these stakes in. Oh, hey, speaking of which, don't forget to stake down that subscribe button. Anyways, we'll stick these guys in here and just in a crisscross fashion. And this will be enough to hold these guys up. It's kind of cool looking too. It contains them. It actually makes them stand up a little bit and they support each other, which is great. It kind of gives it that country look, country cottage garden look. And look at how nice and tidy that makes them. And these are just short little bamboo sticks. Now, if you don't have bamboo sticks, you can even just use some tree branches. Just use small ones. Isn't that cool? And then you can use these again next year as well. So, and then one thing with your beans is make sure that you continue to harvest, because if you stop harvesting, you're telling that plant that it needs to start producing seed. And so it'll put all of its energy into that seed. So continue to snap those beans off. And I actually come in here on a day-to-day basis, and I'm always looking, because there's always a sneaker that gets away that's big. And so we want them when they're nice and small and tender. Okay, I put you on pause, and I finished taking this up. And doesn't that look better? We have a row that we can walk down now. And look what I found here. So under here, hiding, that was laying right down on the ground, is a bunch of beans. I came through here this morning and I picked and literally did not see these. So there's a nice little group of these right all through here that I need to come back in here and get. And they're beautiful. Okay, I better get in here tonight and get these finished up. Okay, here's another one of our free foods. We've got the parsnip. And we did talk about this in one of our other tours, about how these seeds are so easy to harvest. And you can see right here, that right there, these are such viable seeds. They're dry. We can actually direct sow these right now because they're nice and dry. And they germinate so much better than when you actually buy them in a package. And besides that, a little packet like that is usually a couple of bucks. So you're saving so much. This is one parsnip. So how awesome is that? And I just noticed as I was pulling these off, you should see the crazy, insane ladybugs and ladybug larvae all over this parsnip plant. This is awesome to see. I love this kind of stuff in our garden. This is why doing polyculture is so important, to have things like this that feed our beneficials. Look at these guys. They're all over it. This one over here is super crazy with all of these little guys. Okay, so each one of these little umbules probably has 4 or 5 little larvae on it. There is some ladybugs in here, and there's all different stages. This is what I love. And so I don't want to be pulling this out until they've moved on and done their full life circle right here. Pretty awesome stuff in the garden. So I'm a super sucker for bare spots in the garden. And so as you can see in the front here, we have some squash, but there was some space. And of course, I've got to utilize this space. And so I had some blue cocoa beans. I've never grown these before. And so I thought, maybe why not use what these were supposed to be tomato trellises that didn't work. They work awesome for these beans. And I'm excited to see what these are going to turn out like. We haven't gotten any off of it, and I've never grown these before. So I love trying new stuff to see what they turn out like. So super excited about this. And of course, the zinnias are all over in the garden that self-sow. Okay, we've got basil as a companion plant all through the garden as well. And this is the month that it just is insanely crazy producing, but it also wants to produce seed like crazy. And so we can come in here and just clip these seed heads off to continue for it to be able to continue to produce. But it's best if we actually use the stuff. And so we want to go down lower, because if we just nip off those seed heads, they're just going to come back really, really fast. So if we actually go down just a little bit further, oh, do you hear that thunder? Okay, so if we actually go down a little bit further to where we're a couple of leaflets down below the one that I just pinched off, it'll do a lot better, and it'll bush out and be fuller. And the more you harvest this stuff, the more productive it is. It grows like crazy when it's hot, and It's awesome for pesto, of course, but we've also got some cinnamon basil right here. So cinnamon basil is one of those that is just really good in different types of pestos as well. And it really likes to go to seed, but I like to grow it because it's great for the bees, and the bees love it, and it's a great companion plant. And it really seems to help ward off a lot of pests. Well, guys, I'm getting sprinkled on. I can see that it's coming, so I'm going to run inside, and I want to thank you for joining us today. We'll see you later. Until next time. Come on, then. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Here comes the rain.